Tehachapi has grown, and it's a great place, whether you want to visit or you want to live there. It's just a great place. It's a little pocket of Kern County that doesn't exist in a lot of places in America. It's just that slice of old-fashioned Americana, if you will, with a great historic downtown and just a great place to live.
The voice you just heard is Key Budge from the City of Tehachapi. Key coordinates all communication efforts for the City of Tehachapi. He has more than 30 years of experience working in government, 25 of which as a deputy sheriff down in Los Angeles County, 6 years with the City of Tehachapi, and 2 years with the City of Palmdale. He also has more than 12 years in media-related fields, including on-air at KUZZ Bakersfield as a news anchor and DJ. You'll probably recognize his voice and name from that. Key has called Tehachapi home for almost 20 years after migrating there from the greater Los Angeles area. In today's show, Key gives us a good overview of Bakersfield's mountain neighbor to the east. He gives us a good description of all the smaller communities that make up what we know collectively as Tehachapi. And he lets us know about the growth going on there, some of the business opportunities, and the growing variety of entertainment and tourism opportunities. So, sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast, the show where your local professionals sit down with an array of guests to hear their story and impart some wisdom for both business and life-improving skills. This is your place to hear business and community leaders discuss relevant topics that matter to you.
And welcome to the show today. My name is Scott Hanson. I'm here with my co-host, David Plivelich. Before we get started on today's episode, I want to encourage our listeners to go out there to YouTube and follow us. Check out our YouTube channel. We're on YouTube now. And, of course, on Instagram. Check us out. Send us a comment. We really appreciate it. Key, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's just a pleasure to be here.
We've been looking forward to having you on. We talk a lot about Bakersfield and Kern County as a whole in southern San Joaquin Valley, but it's kind of rare that we get somebody on from one of our kind of satellite communities, Tehachapi, and there's a lot going on up in Tehachapi these last few years and currently.
Tehachapi has grown, and it's a great place to, whether you want to visit or you want to live there. It's just a great place. It's a little pocket of Kern County that doesn't exist in a lot of places in America. It's just that slice of old-fashioned Americana, if you will, with a great historic downtown and just a great place to live.
And I know that you're not originally from there, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what took you to Tehachapi. And I think you have a pretty good frame of reference to compare other places to Tehachapi because you've spent some time in some other places.
I have. I grew up in Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles, and kind of lived around LA County in a few different places. So got that chance of city living, just like living here in Bakersfield.
Yep.
And then wanted to find a little bit more quiet and space, and I found that in Tehachapi.
But you have been there a long time now.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, so maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how it's changed over the last 20 years.
Well, when we first moved there, my wife and son and I, there was one stoplight, and we've got a few more, but wow. we're still counting those stoplights with our fingers.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like coming down here to Bakersfield and I've got 20 or 25 stoplights between the 99 to get to here to your studio.
That's right.
We don't have that many. We're still counting them.
So I think a thing that people don't understand about Tehachapi is that Tehachapi is not just Tehachapi. So there's Tehachapi City. Maybe you can kind of break down for us, too, all the other communities that go into Tehachapi. And what you start to realize once you go up there that it's actually quite spread out. And each one of the communities has its own personality. And there's kind of different aspects to every little pocket of the area.
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because that's one of the things that we always talk about at the city, in the city of Tehachapi. And you've got Tehachapi as a whole, and that's the zip code. And that's basically everything up there on top of the mountain, which includes Stallion Springs, Bear Valley Springs, Golden Hills, Alpine Forest, Sand Canyon, and the city of Tehachapi, and then the unincorporated portions thereof that kind of surround those communities.
Yeah, and so where is the most activity going on? Is there a particular area out of all those that most of the, new development and...
Well, there's about 40,000 in population, just under. And of that, about 10,000 is in the city of Tehachapi. So only a quarter of the population's within the city limits. Everything else is in the outside communities. I believe Golden Hills actually has a larger population base than the city does. And Golden Hills is our next door neighbor, just kind of separated by Tucker. So the bulk of the business is in the city of Tehachapi limits, but there is some in unincorporated Golden Hills along the 202 and what we call Old Town, the original business corridor for the Tehachapi community.
And so, just doing more and more business up there lately, my own experience, Dave, I can tell you that there's a lot going on up there, and the commute is really not that bad. And my theory is that once they get this crosstown freeway connected, Heath Road to the Tehachapi exit is going to be a pretty quick trip, and you're going to be on the freeway the entire time. I spend more time going across town, Bakersfield, and then getting to the east side of Bakersfield and then up the mountain than I even do going up the 58.
Yeah, it's really an easy commute. And when I moved to Tehachapi 20 years ago, I was still working in the Antelope Valley in the Palmdale area, and I would make that hour drive, and it was my decompression time. There was no traffic, 65 miles, and I just kind of chilled out and felt like, hey, I'm ready to be home. And as the temperature cooled, as we climbed an elevation to get to Tehachapi, it was
very grateful to be home.
Yeah, and it was just such a smooth ride. Yeah. So as in the same thing coming on the Bakersfield side, it's just a 45-minute.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so lucky. I usually hit some kind of a traffic or a road work or something. But if I go before about 7 a.m., it is a breeze.
Yeah. If you want to get into truck climbing lanes, there's a whole nother discussion about getting into Tehachapi, but that's probably not for today's topic. No. But those are definitely needed there on the 58.
So what is the approximate elevation of Tehachapi?
4,000 feet right at the summit, right is where the airport is. So as you drive on the 58 and you crest and you hit the 3 Tehachapi exits, you're at 4,000 feet.
Okay, and then you have some properties like Bear Valley Springs, I know will get up to 6+, right? 6,000 plus, maybe Alpine Forest as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some steep elevation gain once you get to some of those outlying communities. I live in the Bear Valley area. I'm at about 4,400 feet, and then it climbs from there. You can go vertical if you want to.
What's the growth like? We know like a lot of COVID and people are getting to work remotely and move wherever they want. Is your growth been pretty good up there?
It's been very good. We've seen a big turnover in my estimation of looking at what's happened over the last 2 years. Race Communications came in and started laying fiber down in Bear Valley and in Stallion Springs, and now they're doing it in the city and Golden Hills. But that was kind of a game changer for this, and the timing couldn't have been better for those people that were work from home. And I think there was a national magazine that actually ranked our communities as one of the best places to telecommute based on the high quality of that fiber line that's out there. Wow. So that's been kind of a game changer. We started seeing people come in from Silicon Valley, Orange County, these different communities that you really probably wouldn't associate with the mountains, and they've sold their place in San Jose and in Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, Orange County, and they've moved up there, and they're working from home. There's a lot of people working from home now.
Yeah, it's really driven that real estate market through the roof, really. Virtually every one of our buyers on properties that we've had up there have been out of the area, mostly south of Tehachapi. So anything from San Diego to Los Angeles. Somebody moving out of the city and wanting to be remote, mostly full-time, where they're not buying it as a vacation home. They're buying it to live in it and use it and work remotely.
Right. And then we've got new business, Village Co. That is a co-op opportunity. So they've got co-working space and it's got the high-speed internet. But if you want your own little office space because you can't do it at home, you've got that. So we've got a brand new building that is set up just for, that kind of a situation where you don't want to make that commute to LA and you need an office space because you can't do it at home because the little ones are running around. We've got it there. Yeah. Tehachapi has it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad we're having you on today, because I think you're able to kind of break down the growth and what's going on there and so maybe some of the changes. Now, for the local population that's been there forever, do they enjoy the growth? Do they like the fact that things are changing, and are they changing for the better?
That's really debatable, and you go across the board because you get all opinions, and everyone feels a little bit differently. And then some people that live in the outlying communities don't want any growth and complain about it, but they live in the outlying communities. And those that want a little bit more of the comforts and a lot of accessibility to things, they live a little bit closer to the city and they want to have access to it. I know with fuel prices right now, there's a lot more wanting to shop local, stay local, versus traveling down to the Antelope Valley or the San Joaquin Valley just to save the fuel costs. It makes sense to stay home if you can because, we have it.
So there have been a couple of big retailers who have discovered Tehachapi over, say, the last decade. Home Depot came in. Super Walmart came in. You got a couple Starbucks, if I remember right.
The third one is being built right now.
And so, for better or worse, I don't know. I'm sure the local retailers are not thrilled about that, but there's something to be said for when those types of national retailers put a store in. They've done their demographic research, and they have planned for the growth that is probably just starting.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. When Corey Costello, who is our assistant city manager and economic development coordinator, he takes a look at the artificial intelligence, our phone tracking. So he starts looking at that data. When we start looking at what our market share is, it's the population that shops in Tehachapi. We pull from about a 215,000 population based east and west of Tehachapi. So he will put a geofence around, say, Walmart, and he'll look to see who's come here at least 3 times. So it's not just not just you're driving on the 58, I need to pop off and pop on, but looking at 3 visits or more. We see East Bakersfield coming. We see Rosamond, we see Mojave, we see Boron, Cal City, even Ridgecrest, and they come. Maybe it's the climate. And then we also see them going to more than one store. So I think that's big when we talk about the other retailers, when we look at just tracking the phones and the people that are coming, and we know they're not residents based on the tracking data, they're going to multiple stops. And we see 3 or more stops. So they're probably getting something to eat at one of the local eateries, might be going to the antique stores, maybe they're going to the wineries, but we're seeing that is an economic driver because it's supporting other businesses along the way. So the data is there. So we're really kind of very pleased to see that.
I think that Tehachapi has tried to be a destination for a very long time and build themselves as a destination. I think more recently, though, some of that is really coming to fruition with the wine region. And I know there's live entertainment and all sorts of things going on at the wineries, and the brewery scene is starting to grow, I know, up there too. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of that's going on, and then are you starting to feel that tourism as a industry in Tehachapi?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the winery industry is an industry for us, and now the microbrewery scene is. Now we've got 3 microbreweries in downtown, and there's another 1 or 2 that are on the table.
Oh, wow. We've
got 5 wineries. We've got at least 5 wineries. We have 7 wine tasting rooms, and there's differences between wineries and tasting rooms. I can't really kind of get in the nuances of that, but they have some really good wines. But I can tell you, thanks to the work of Congressman McCarthy, he really pushed very hard for the Tehachapi Mountains to get an AVA designation. It's huge because if you're going to bottle wine in California, unless you have a AVA designation, it's an act of Congress that it has to go through. You can only put California on your bottle of wine. Now we can put Tehachapi Mountains as where this wine comes from. So like Santa Barbara, Paso Robles, Monterey, Napa Valley, Tehachapi Mountains now has a shelf space, if you will, when you go in with that special designation. So that's a game changer. It is a destination to come and check out the wineries. We've got more hotels that have been built. So we're seeing that kind of tourism, people coming up, and now we've got tours where you can jump on Discover Tehachapi's bus and take a tour of multiple wineries and not have to drive.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that, if the peripheral industries are starting to grow, like transportation and those services that cater to somebody who's coming to be a tourist in Tehachapi.
We've got, Discover Tehachapi is kind of the one out in the forefront. We've got another one that is also providing service. So yeah, those secondary and third industry supports, businesses are there. So that's where we're starting to see growth. And, that's just kind of that, when you've got something that's economically working, it flows down. It's not just in one spot. So we're seeing the multiple growth areas, and so even though the wineries aren't in the city of Tehachapi, we at the city promote people coming up because we see them stay in the hotels that are in the city or shopping at the stores in the city, the restaurants. So it's a shared economic growth for the unincorporated area and in the city of Tehachapi.
Yeah. So would you guys say you have a labor shortage there? Do you think that there's opportunity for somebody relocating there to get employed? Not in the work remote scenario that maybe a lot of people have come there over the last couple of years, but somebody who's going there to find opportunity, get employed. What are some of the things that you would say somebody would be employed
on that job, Mark? I can tell you right now at the city, we need police officers.
Okay.
The Tehachapi Police Department is looking for lateral officers, and we're seeing those applications come through as you start to see the politics get involved in law enforcement and government agencies, and the officers are starting to look elsewhere for another opportunity. We have those opportunities, and we are a very pro law enforcement community, so that as someone who comes from law enforcement background, being retired, that means a lot to work for a community that wants you there. So that's something that hopefully if anyone hears this that's in law enforcement, know that if Tehachapi is someone who supports you in doing your job, and we do have some openings for laterals. So that's one specific need we have right at the city. There's lots of support services that are looking for different levels of employment. But the one thing that we do see is our surrounding workforce. A lot of engineers are needed. When we start talking about, at Rio Tinto and the mine at Edwards Air Force Base, the engineering field is, and that whole STEM workforce, the jobs are surrounding us, and they all want to live in Tehachapi.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There's a lot of that STEM workforce is out in the desert in the aerospace industry, but they want to live in Tehachapi.
Yeah.
They don't mind that commute like you're talking about over on the other side, on the east side of the Tehachapi Mountains. Right. And making that, 30, 40-minute commute.
Yeah, there's no
living
traffic.
in a really nice place.
Right. When you come home, I always looked at it and said, when I got home, I felt like I was on vacation because there was the mountains. I could see the deer across the road. You could hear the wind whistle through the trees. And it was 15 degrees cooler than it is on the valley floors, either Antelope Valley or San Joaquin side. Yeah. So you just felt refreshed once you got home. So we see that when we talk to the STEM industry. We've talked to Richard Chapman at Kern EDC, and that's one of the things that he looks in the East County is there's a need for engineers at all different levels, whether it's aerospace, like I said, or at Edwards, Mojave Spaceport, Rio Tinto. We've got mining. You've got all the renewables in Tehachapi. There are jobs there, and Tehachapi is the place that people want to live. So that's where we're finding that kind of marriage of we're going to provide you a nice, high-quality place to call home, and it's easy access to wherever you want to work.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tehachapi has always been known for its quality of life up there for sure.
Yeah.
How's the school system?
School system is good. It's solid. I know that it's been a while since my son has gone through the system and graduated, so I don't have a real hands-on, it would be 10 years ago plus that he went through the system, but he got a great education. Plus there's private school, availabilities also.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Tehachapi is a law enforcement friendly place. You're speaking from experience. You spent a lot of time in, I think, Kern County or LA County Sheriff, right? Or LA County.
Yeah, LA County Sheriff.
Yeah, and so you didn't just live down in LA. You worked in LA County Sheriff. So how different is even just the amount of crime? And I get the feeling when I'm up there that it still has a very kind of sleepy feel to it where your neighbors, people kind of watch out for each other. Do you get that living there?
You do. You absolutely do. And I think that we've seen a large turnover in the last 2 years during COVID when the real estate, people are selling and leaving and new people coming in. And it takes a while for someone to come in and adjust to that. It's like,
it can be a little too much, right?
Well, I remember when my wife and we moved in and someone's waving to us, and I wonder who they thought we were. No, we're neighbors. And that's the concept is you will make eye contact with somebody and say hello. You do that in the cities, and sometimes people are like,
"What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. What are you talking to me for? So, all the technology and everything is there, but there is that down-home feel, that connectability. And I think that's really what I see at the city level. We disconnect sometimes. We kind of get in our own little pods. That's where we're comfortable. And then we want to get to our next comfort zone. Up there, everyone does know everyone. The kids, there might be 5 or 6 different elementary schools, but they filter to one high school, one junior high and one high school. So the kids grow up together. Yeah. So when you're doing youth sports, you grow up together in those organizations and things. So you really do start to blend, and it's a community.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. When you have one high school, every family eventually kind of crosses paths somehow and get to know each other, and the kids end up knowing each other somehow. What are some of the upcoming events, some things that people should know about who want to venture up and check things out?
Well, as this airs, we'll have just come out of Memorial Day and the Memorial Day Parade, which is a big deal for us. We really want to make sure we honor our veterans and those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Tehachapi is very patriotic, as well as being pro-law enforcement, hugely patriotic. So we honor our military. So we're just coming out of that, and that kind of kicks off where we have just mounted all of our U.S. flags throughout downtown. So there's not a light pole in the downtown area where you won't find a U.S. flag. And we'll keep those up right through Veterans Day because we want to honor all of the men and women who have served us. And coming up, we'll have Farmers Market every Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. in downtown on Green Street. And that's a traditional farmers market. And we'll have farmers from down here in the San Joaquin Valley, as well as local farmers, bring their produce up. And it's a great place to just kind of hang out. And then the local businesses will have some specials. You'll smell the tri-tip cooking. It's worth that trip up. Bring the family because it is a family type event. There'll be entertainment, a little bit of music. Sometimes there's some little bit of sidewalk theater that goes on. You never know what you might get, but it's every Thursday. And that starts the first Thursday of June and it goes through Labor Day, the Thursday of Labor Day week.
And I noticed you have quite a few live music events going on. I think mostly at the wineries, probably in the tasting rooms, right? Oh, but do you have some stuff in town as well?
During the July 4th celebration, we will have some live music acts. We'll have at Central Park in downtown, we'll have some live music that's going on leading up to the big fireworks display that takes off at 9 o'clock at the airport. So that'll be July 4th. And then every weekend, the wineries and our microbreweries, they've got some form of entertainment. So you could come up and you could catch 7 different things going on all in one night if you wanted to, run to each of the locations.
And so you touched a little bit on race coming to town, having, this high-speed internet, promoting businesses, new businesses that hadn't looked at Tehachapi before. What are some of the other things that are like that are going on commercially that you know of? I mean, I know that they're building a new bowling alley, so there's even more entertainment-type related things going on. Is there other industry and commercial things type coming to town?
Well, I can say that out there publicly, they pulled their permit. Chipotle is coming to town, so there's another little eatery.
Good.
So for
I eat there regularly. Now I have somewhere else to eat up there.
I'm looking forward to it. And the nice thing is that it's going to be one of their new technology-based stores where they're going to have drive-through, but it's for app ordering only. I think they just opened one like that in Ridgecrest.
Okay.
So you can order ahead on the app, and that's where business has evolved over the last 2 years, right? Sure. We've learned, and they've evolved as a business to maximize movement of people. So it'll be a traditional Chipotle inside, but the drive-through portion will just be for app ordering, which I thought was, that's the way I like to order my food now. I've been socially engineered into app ordering of food when I go places. Yeah. That's just the way, we are as a society.
It is really convenient.
Yeah. So we've got that third Starbucks that's being built on the north side of the freeway, what we call Capitol Hills, and that's where the hospital is. Adventist Health runs the hospital. And I think that's going to be nice because it'll take all the freeway traffic, the people that want their Starbucks and they've got their app up and they're like, where's the closest Starbucks? Well, that one's going to be right off the freeway, which will alleviate some of the pressure on the one that's right there in downtown. So there's, we start to see these complementary, why would you have 2 Starbucks a mile apart? Well, one's going to pull the freeway traffic and one will take care of the locals because there's that much activity. There's some other things there's a Marriott that's about to open. So that is over by the hospital. I think it's 3 stories, beautiful new Marriott hotel. That's just been kind of part of the COVID and things being held off in the LA harbor, waiting for them to get taken off the ship and for them to supply rooms. Those things are now finally getting off the ships and they're very close to opening doors. So we've got a couple of things like that are out there in the public wear, and there's a lot of private chatter investors that are out there looking to create new business, but they haven't made any the formal commitments yet.
I know there's a pretty good sized housing tract that I think is approved. I know it's kind of been back and forth. Do you know the latest on that?
It's gone through the Planning Commission. It's received those approvals. So it's in the next phase.
Sage Ranch is what it's called, right?
Right.
And do you happen to know how many housing units or how many lots that is?
I believe it's close to 900.
Can you tell who's the real estate guy in the room?
Yeah, no kidding. No, exactly. But I think that's over the course of several years. They want to potentially build like 900 homes.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a...
Yeah, it wasn't like everything was going to be done at once. And I think a lot of people had the misconception that all of a sudden there was going to be 900 homes on the market as soon as they're done. No, it's going to be through several phases over probably multiple years. And I'm not in that area, but that's kind of the things that I do here, and Scott, you probably can confirm that those things, it takes time.
Like everywhere over the last couple of years, there just was a housing shortage, and Tehachapi definitely was in there. People really wanted to move there, and there just were not enough houses. And there's a lot of dated construction there. A lot of Tehachapi was built out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so there's a real lack over the last couple of years of new housing. It's caused a lot of those infill lots in Golden Hills, Bear Valley, Springs, everywhere, Stallion, to get bought up and now built on. So there is a lot more new construction, but there's not a lot of housing tract. Like we see here in Bakersfield, it's very customary to take down, 160 acres and develop it all out. And then over 4 or 5 years, you have this tract that, is kind of predictable. I don't see that as much in Tehachapi. It's a lot more infill.
Not in the city of Tehachapi. Yeah. Like you mentioned, out in Bear Valley, Stallion Springs, those areas, there's been a lot of independent builders that are going out and buying lots and building. Yeah. Within the city, there's been 1 or 2 here or there. It's been very few homes built since the last housing cycle that we went through, 10 plus years ago. Since then, it's been very few homes within the city. So I think that's where developers started to look and see, hey, there might be opportunity there. So I think that's what they're looking at. But definitely in the unincorporated areas, there's been a housing boom. But that's been Stallion and Bear Valley, and they're filling in those lots.
They really are. Yeah. Bear Valley has filled in quite a bit just in the last few years. Let's talk about TehachaPod. Okay. You host a podcast. Tell us all about it.
It's funny. So mentioned my law enforcement background, but prior to law enforcement, I worked in radio, did TV production. My college background is radio, TV. Left the business, went into law enforcement, enjoyed a career at LA County Sheriff. And just before I left, I wanted to go back to what I really, really had a passion for, and that was working in communications. As soon as I retired, I started working at KUZZ. I was doing news. I started doing a little bit of news reporting. Then I worked on the other side. Brent Michaels flipped me over onto the DJ side, did a little work on that side. And then I got the opportunity to come to the City of Tehachapi and build a communications department. So that was very intriguing. And understanding government after working in it for so long and then having the experience in the communication side has been very comfortable for me. And one of the things that I talked about was we as a government agency, most government agencies are very reactionary versus being out in front and being the proactive and let's talk about whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent. So that was our philosophy. And we don't have a true media market in Tehachapi. Bakersfield comes up, the TV stations come up on a slow news day. Okay, so I've got a weekly newspaper and a bi-weekly newspaper. So by the time the information gets out, if we use the newspapers, it's already 7 to 10 days old. So we beefed up our social media presence to have a very strong, robust presence. You understand when you're looking at demographics, people get information different ways. So you can't just do it the old-fashioned way of, we told the newspaper and that's good enough. When we look at how people consume information, we do it on our phones. We each have an electronic device in front of us right now that we can pull data from. And that's what we wanted to be able to reach. So social media is a big deal. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Nextdoor, we're on all of those platforms providing information. We still send out press releases to the local medias and work with our local journalists whenever we can. But the podcast was something that I was pushing 6 years ago when I came on. I said, this is where terrestrial radio is moving. We have a commuter-based community that I think at one point before the pandemic, 65% of our workforce were commuters. So they were either going to the Antelope Valley or the San Joaquin Valley. So they're turning on the radio. Well, why not turn on a podcast? So we target our podcast, TehachaPod, to be about 30 minutes. That's the goal. So it's within commute time.
Yeah.
We want them to consume the information in one drive, if at all possible. So we bring on different department heads, public works, our development services, economic development. And then we also bring in things that are going on in the community. So we talk to our nonprofits. So it's not just government. We want it to get you the information that the government has, the City of Tehachapi, but we also want to share what's going on in the community, the wine industry, the microbrewery industry, what's our economic development drivers. And then we also bring in people like Richard Chapman, JP Lake, just bring that guys that are in from the outside, from down in Bakersfield, with their perspective on what's going on in East Kern. So we get give everyone a full picture of what's going on at all times. And that's what the podcast is all about.
It seems like it also adds like a little bit of a level of transparency too. So people are really knowing what's going on with their community and hearing it from the individuals that are running it and making some of those decisions for the community.
Absolutely is. I mean, okay, I've got 30 years in government experience, and transparency is always a word that we've heard from the community. We work for the community. They're our bosses. We should be talking about everything that is going on, and that's what we do at the City of Tehachapi. Is if we've got a new project that's coming, we want to talk about it. If we've got a water line break, we want to talk about it. If we're going to do some rehabilitation of roads, whatever it is, we want to talk about it and make sure the people know what we're doing as we're doing it, versus they hit some orange cones and go, what the heck is going on over there? And then we have to explain ourselves afterwards. No, we're going to tell you ahead of time. And then we start to find that the community appreciates that, and they start, if there's someone who does say, hey, well, no one told me, because no, they, and we'll see it on these social media threads. No, they put this information out a week ago. And it's like, okay, then people are paying attention. They are consuming the information. And that's what we're there for. That's what I'm there for, is as the community engagement guy. I mean, it's about engaging with the public, talking to them in the different ways that they want to be talked to. In the old days, and we still do it, you hold a community meeting. Okay. And if you got 15 to 25 people to show up, man, it was a concert. All right. We got 25 from the community. Here, when the podcast, if I get 250 to 1,000 that digest the information, oh my gosh, I've now more than tenfold reached a much larger audience. And then when we put it out on different social media platforms, we're talking about, I think between all of our social media platforms, we have about 20,000 followers. We only have 10,000 that live in the city.
That's fantastic.
So our penetration of getting information out is pretty deep.
Yeah.
And then when we include our news medias and get them to help tell the story, we get closer and closer to talking to everybody, which is the goal.
Yeah, I think that transparency is very important. It takes away a little bit of that mystery of the government office, right? I think it gives your community something to where they can live in an area and have it be a little bit more predictable as to what is going on around them.
Exactly.
Would you say that your economic development department, your building planning, are they pro-growth? Are they pro-business? Are they welcoming to those meetings and those new ideas or those new concepts that are coming to town or that are growing within the town?
We definitely have the conversations, and we have developers come in and who want to pursue something. I mean, this is the beauty of living in America. If you've got an opportunity to purchase land and you want to develop it, you have a right to do that. We make sure that it's done correctly, that it's not fly-by-night, that there's standards, that everything is going to be of high quality, and that what's fair. You're not going to get a free ride. You're going to pay your share to develop, and get something to market. You got to make sure you have all that where you're a good partner within the other businesses in the community. It's not fair for them to have paid your bill, so everyone's got to kind of pay their way. So we look at it as just making sure that we put together a good plan, good rules, and hope that that's what we expect from whoever's coming in. And I think that the feedback I hear or overhear, because I don't have the direct conversations with these developers, is that it was actually a very easy process, and they appreciated being upfront about whatever it is, that our expectations are. Sure. They're not hidden. It's like, no, you have a standard and follow the standards, and you have a right to do it if it's zoned correctly. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're respected in the business community as far as with developers, that if they see the demographics there for them, that the market that they're looking for, I think that people are making investments based on some good solid foundation that is in place.
And you think you have a local government that uses common sense and good approach to those new ideas, I guess. I think that it is pretty common to get shut down at the government level with so many of what everybody in the community would agree are good ideas, and they just never make it past that government office. And that's kind of why I'm asking that question. Do you think Tehachapi is a place that's a little bit more welcome to that?
I think Tehachapi is welcome to having all the conversations.
Yeah.
And if it's good for the community and it makes sense, then it makes sense. Some things don't make sense. And I couldn't give you an example of what that is, but not everything's a fit. But if it's a fit, then let's have the discussion and let's go down that path. If it's a good investment for the investors, that's what they're looking for. Yeah. Are they going to get a return on that investment? Well, we want businesses to be successful. We don't want just growth because we've got a vacant piece of land, so build something.
Right.
it needs to be there for the long haul. Put it up. Let's make sure it thrives. Mm-hmm. If it thrives, we thrive. We look at long-term planning, not short-term vision. There's a lot that are like, oh yeah, come on, we'll take the money right now. No, we want a 5, 10, 30-year plan that this is going to be successful for everyone involved. I mean, I think that's critical.
Smart. It's prudent. Yes. Well, Key, you brought us a lot of great information. Thanks a lot for coming on. Before we let you go, maybe you can let us know.
I got a couple questions.
Oh, go ahead.
I got a couple questions.
Fire away, man.
Dave's here too.
Yeah. Good Lord, Scott. What's one of your favorite parts of your job?
I think getting the opportunity to interact with the public, being part of law enforcement and working with the community, I enjoyed having interactions, whether it was positive or in a stressful situation. And so I enjoy that now. Now the stressful situations are far reduced, not being in law enforcement, but these interactions, conversations, enlightening people, educating, and then listening too. It's not a one-way conversation. If you got something to say, I'm going to absorb it and I'm going to take it back, within my organization and share it. It's not, you got to hear what I have to say. What is it what's your perception on this? And then we've got to digest it. Why do you perceive it to be that way? What are we miscommunicating? So I think I really enjoy that part.
What's a secret about Tehachapi that most people would be very shocked to, oh, wow, did not know that?
If you don't know Tehachapi, then you probably haven't gotten off the freeway or gotten past Tehachapi Boulevard. Yeah. You get off to get gas, you get off to get a Starbucks, but if you drive back and you start to see the beauty, the scenery, the elk, the other wildlife that are out there, the vineyards, you just have to just drive a little bit off the freeway. Just stay on the 202, go through the city, work your way out to the county, go out to Stallion Springs. You'll come back going, I had no idea this was here.
It's a great place to ride motorcycles. I've done up that a couple times with buddies, and it's just a wonderful ride. Yeah. You were the first person I've ever met in my entire life named Key. Where did that come from?
Last name of the lady that introduced my mother and father to each other. So that's where it came from. So
very cool.
Yeah, I haven't met anyone else named Key either.
Right. Well, I'm probably the first Plivelich that you've ever met. So, all right, those are all my hard-hitting questions, Scott.
I love it, Dave. I think you're right on, though, Key, is that it's not just the couple antique shops, and not to take away from that, because there's the old train station and there's the downtown scene. But I mean, you do take a drive back into the Cummings Valley back there and everything, and just beautiful.
And my wife and I, 20 years ago, used to come up for lunch or dinner. We do the old apple shed.
Yep.
And that would be our introduction to Tehachapi. And then all of a sudden we'd venture off a little further, and it was like, why aren't we living here?
Yeah.
And that's what flipped it for us. And it was like I went from living in a tract home to, living in property where you've got a little bit of elbow room. And I love that. So I think that's a key point for folks is just drive down the road. Give yourself
back there a little bit.
Yeah. If you go up for a winery, I guarantee you're going to want to stick around and have dinner. You're going to want to go on Antique Row. You'll check out some of the other mom and pop shops we have. We've got a great mom and pop shop vibe. I mean, small business drives America. We have small business, and we really think that Tehachapi has it. Come on up, check it out. Maybe it's living there is not your cup, but it's a great weekend getaway, and it's only an hour away here from the San Joaquin Valley or the Antelope Valley, and you'll feel like you've gone somewhere else.
Yeah, it's much more than windmills.
Right, exactly that.
Guy, before we let you go, why don't you let everybody know how to stay in touch with what is coming up in Tehachapi? How would they reach out to you in the future after the show if they wanted to learn more about what you have going on up there?
You got it. So on our social medias, every platform, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, it's at City of Tehachapi on all of those. Our podcast is TehachaPod, and we did a little in-house name the podcast internally, and a couple of guys in the Public Works Department came up with that. So I was like, okay, cool, TehachaPod it is. And it's growing, so we'd love to have people, follow. Not only if you're listening to your podcast, we've got something that they might find of entertainment value also just based on the fact that we're neighboring communities talking about Kern County.
I know. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Good. Well, Key, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
This show has been brought to you by the Law Office of Kyle Jones, Troy Burton with the Lynn Company, CPA John Duffield, Scott Hanson Real Estate Lender, broker and investor, and Dave Plivelich, President and CEO of the Marcom Group and MarcomBranding.com. You've been listening to the Our 2 Cents podcast. Check out the show notes for links and more information about the show. Also visit our website at our2centspodcast.com or catch us on Instagram at Our 2 Cents Podcasts. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share with others.